and welcome to our, Craig, you have to look now, number 5, webinar 5 with Sud-America Coaching, and our friend, our very affectionate friend Juan, or Juan as he's known as in the Isle of Man. So we're glad we've got a lot of familiar faces as well, so that's testament to Juan's appeal that we've got a lot of people returning from previous webinars. So great to see Chris Brannigan. Give us a wave, Chris. Excellent. Claire from Netball, give us a wave, Claire. Is this 100% for you now, Claire? Hey, fantastic. Simon's back from football. Simon, how we doing, mate? Give us a wave. And we've got Danny back from rugby. And I think we got Lewis as well. Yeah, Mr. Qualtro's back again. And we've got Juan Watney as well, or Juan Watney. So brilliant, excellent. And Chris Brannigan feels like he's on a game show. So we might have some prizes, Chris, but we can't promise anything just yet. So yeah, brilliant. Back to number 5. We've got a fantastic guest lined up for you tonight in Sergio, Lara, Bercial. I hope my pronunciation is getting better, Juan, and not worse.
Amazing,
so
Trev.
That's poor. So I'm going to hand over to Juan, who's going to give us a bit of a biography and introduce tonight's guest. So Juan, over to you, my friend.
Brilliant, mate. You get better every week. You get better every week. You still got your middle name. You're still the only username in Zoom with his middle name, which I love. After everyone, great to see you guys. You must be very relieved. It's not just me tonight. You got a main course tonight. It's not a side order or an entry. You got a main course with Sergio there. Look, you've all had his biography and what he's done. I mean, we could be here for a good 30 minutes trying to summarize your experience, Sergio, which I'm sure you're going to give us the Zoom version in a moment. As usual, guys, we're not very many, so please, I'm sure Sergio will agree with me, feel free to unmute yourselves and jump in the conversation. It is very much about having a conversation, I would say. A couple of housekeeping bits really quickly from me. Hopefully you are getting that email that is going to yourselves between 1 or 2 days after we have this conversation with all the resources. If for some reason you cannot find it at first glance, please do check your spam, junk inbox and all those bits, your promotions, depending on the filter you've got. You should be able to find it, but obviously it's going to, I think the signups are up to 40 now, so it's going to about 40 people, so it's likely for your emails to reject it at first glance, but it'll be there somewhere. Once you've added the address, then it should be all safe and good to go. As usual, do give us a follow on social media if you haven't yet. Lots of you posting some bits a couple of weeks ago, which is great to see, with your hot feedback and hot reviews, which is brilliant, and obviously keep sharing the love that way. Claire is still in Paris. I can see that she's been there for over 2 months now, which is fantastic. Great to see the rest of you as well. Lots of people coming back, which is great, and hopefully quite a few of you also watching this on the record after you've clicked on that email that you've had in your inboxes. But with no further ado, Sergio, how are you? You must be delighted that every time I introduce you, it's not Sergio. It's Sergio.
I'm great.
There you go.
It's actually, I don't know who I am anymore, because after this is my 22nd year in the UK. So actually when someone calls me Sergio, the proper Spanish version, I go like, that's not me.
I've been Joan for 13 years, so there you go.
But no, listen, thanks a million for the invitation to spend some time with you tonight. It's always exciting to share with coaches, really. I will show you in a minute, but really, I am nothing but a coach that has, by hook or by crook, ended up in the position that I am. But I am a coach. That's where the identity lies. And it's always amazing just to be able to spend some time with other coaches, really, and learning together. So really looking forward to tonight. I'm gonna share my screen, and like Juan said, the plan is to, let me just share this, go full screen. Can someone just give me a confirmation that you can see the presentation yet?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Brilliant. So the idea is to I'm going to be giving you some of the ideas that we've been working on for the last few years, but like Juan says, we've got an opportunity in a group like this to really share it together. So I'm going to be asking you some questions as well, and hoping to stimulate some debate. If we get through the whole thing, great. If we talk a lot and we only get through half, then so be it, right? But really important to hear what you have to say. First thing that I wanted to say is, it's always my welcome card, really. I am a coach, and I want you to see me as a coach. Yeah, I've ended up working at a university and doing research and my PhD and all that, and I do a lot of coach education and teaching, but really at heart, where I feel most comfortable is on the court. In my case, the basketball court, although I've done quite a lot of multi-skills coaching as well with young children. And basketball wise, I've been very fortunate to coach from the little ones, which I still do, and you'll see me coaching in some of the videos that I'm going to show you tonight, to internationals when I coached GB for a few years. But again, if you ask me where I feel most comfortable and happiest, with the younger lads, okay, I really enjoy coaching kids. So really fortunate that I'm able to spend a lot of my time in this space, either coaching myself or working with coaches. I wanted to start the session today, if we're going to talk about the 10 golden rules for sport, really for youth sport, with a really broad question. And the question is this: is sport good for children? So guys, over to you. You can go on the chat and write things up on the chat, or you can just open your mic, and I'm going to try and see if I can also see your faces now in case you want to talk. Can you still see the full screen? Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
So, right, is sport good for children? Yes, no. What's your take? Like I said, you can speak. You can put it on the chat.
It depends.
Okay. All right. What do people think? Everybody on the yes, no, or it depends. Yeah, we got a heart there.
I agree with
Chris loving that.
Sergio. I agree with Trevor. It depends on the amount of sport the kids are getting. You know, can it lead to burnout? You know, injuries, and are they enjoying it, or the parents forcing them to do it because they're trying to live their childhood back, you know, through the child again. So, you know, there's an argument for and an argument against.
Absolutely, and it is a trick question, really, because normally I force people to go yes or no, okay, and it is never like that. It really depends, okay, and that's where the next slide comes in, really, where let me see if I can get to it, right? So we have this traditional view of looking at sport as if it was the Aladdin's magic lamp, you know, that as soon as we get in touch with the sport, as soon as we pick up the basketball or the football or whatever it is, that we're going to be better people and that we're going to have a great time. But we know it doesn't work like that, really. We know that for a lot of people it's a good experience, but we also know that it can be a negative experience. And really my understanding of sport over the years, really, and our research shows this, is that sport looks a lot more like a game of Tetris, where for sport to be a positive experience, the pieces have to fall into place, and they have to be the right pieces in the right places. Okay, and that's our job, and that's the difficulty that we have as coaches, that we have all these moving pieces that we need to put in the right place. But I think for me the key is, once we understand it like this, and we understand that there are different moving pieces, we're in a much better place. Because if we just think that it's just magically going to change children's lives, we are in for a lot of disappointment, and also we are in for we're not going to do justice to the kids. Really, we have to work at it. We can't leave it to chance. Okay. So once we've agreed on that, another question: what, in your view, do you think children get out of sport? Okay, what do children get from sport?
They
And
make,
you can just go on, Claire.
make a lot of friends. They make a lot of friendships,
Friendship,
and
yeah.
they learn a lot of sort of rules, you know,
Yeah, so friendship,
just
learning
general rules.
Yeah, so more like psychosocial things, really, social aspects of being part of a group and learning to interact with a group. And what else?
Yeah.
Anything else? Anybody?
Getting a few bits from the chat as well from June.
Well, let me see those.
Yeah.
Right now, my screen looks like Tom Cruise in Minority Report. Right, so physical fitness, interpersonal skills, resilience, creativity, lifestyle. Thanks, Juan. Compliance, structure, life lessons. Brilliant.
A break from mum and dad.
A break from mum and dad. That's unfortunate for my kids because I do coach my kids, so they don't get a break from me. But they do other sports as well. Thank God for that. But yeah, okay. Anything else? Anything else you can think of? Physical
and mental health and well-being.
Okay, big thing. And we are actually in Children's Mental Health Week this week. So it's a very important comment there, Trev. All right, so again,
we'd be here all day.
We could be here all day, exactly. And that's where this comes in, right? That really, we know that when done properly, sport can be a great source of many things. And we say it could be biological, so the physical aspect of sport, okay, the psychological, okay, cognitive, emotional, and the social. You know, it could be learning social skills, also being able to be part of a social group. It can be great. But again, going back to the idea of when it is done in the right way, and when it is, let's just not assume that a sport is going to give everybody all these things, okay? And I'm not talking to the converted here, okay? So just a bit of scene setting, really. Because what do we know now? If we say that the conditions have to be perfect for this to work, what do we know about sport in the 21st century, really, or in 2021? And we know a couple of things, really. We know that on the one hand, we complain that children are not playing enough, and this is exacerbated more now with COVID and sport. Well, you guys are very lucky because I know life is back to normal in your part of the world. I'm only a few hundred miles away from you in Manchester, but there's been no sport here since before Christmas, and so we got that on the one hand, children don't play sport because they're doing other things, but on the other hand, like the picture on the left, when they want to go out and play, we don't let them play because it's not safe, because we are very protective, and we've got a little bit of an imbalance there around. We want children to do sport, but we don't let them. Okay. And on the other hand, so we've got some children that don't do sport, don't do enough sport, and we've got issues with obesity and mental health as well, for example. But on the other hand, we also have children that do a lot of sport, too much. Okay. And children that from an early age, we expect them to be the next Michael Phelps, like in that picture. And we know all these have lots of negative impacts as well. Some of them immediate now. Children drop out of sport at 11 because they've been training like a professional for 5 years already. Okay, but also later in later years that can have a massive impact really to their mental health when they're in their 30s or 40s. Okay, the negative experience from way back, and this kind of is exacerbated because we have something which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and I'm sure that it works the same for you, which is called the pyramid view of sport. Okay, it's really the talent pyramid. Okay, and in most sports and most countries, sport is organized like this, where most children start playing some sport. Okay, now as they get older, only some continue because we subject them to ever higher demands and poor practice, poor coaching practice. But we don't care too much because in the end, a handful make it and we get our medalists and our stars, and the rest tend to drop out like penguins. Okay. And we don't seem to worry too much about that. Okay. And we are starting to worry more about it, and there's more. It's been talked about more, but I don't think we're doing anywhere near enough on the ground to fix this problem. And that's the point, that we have a problem. Okay, and I think the best thing that we know now is that we've accepted that we have a bit of a problem, really. That youth sport is not it's not all nice. That there's a few things that we need to fix, but it is a complex problem, and it is a complex problem because it involves a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, really, from children to parents to coaches to national federation, national governing body directors to schools, and has lots of moving pieces. We've got those two, if you want, we've got this idea of we want a sport for all, and at the same time we want to find the talented children and turn them into high performance athletes, and sometimes those two things don't go well together. So it is a complex situation, and what that means is that sometimes it's very difficult to know where to start fixing this problem. Okay, because when you look at it, it's a big white elephant, but like I say, so massive and so complex that it's difficult to decide how you're going to get your teeth into it, really. We've tried to simplify this question, really. Where do we start? And for us, the quick answer is we start by just realizing that children are not mini adults. Okay, and that sounds easy. Okay, and I think as parents or educators, we tend to do this quite well. Okay, but not so much in sport. So I'll give you an example. If I'm planning to watch a movie on a Saturday afternoon with my children and my wife, okay, it is highly unlikely that we're going to ask them to watch this kind of movie. Okay, they're not ready for that yet. Okay, even if they think they may be ready, okay, but they're not ready for that. So we're probably going to end up more going to something like this. All right, and like I say, we're very good at doing this, at seeing the world through the eyes of the child in pretty much every other aspect of life. Okay, we don't expect them to go to school and do third-degree equations in year one. Okay, but still in sport, we are still imposing a lot of the adult views into the experience of sport of the children, and we see things like equipment that is not appropriate for kids. Okay, I have this constant battle. Okay, the people that organize the 9-year-old basketball league in Manchester, okay, they want to play 5-on-5 and they want to play in the 10-foot rings. Okay, so we coach our kids 3-on-3, 2-on-2 in a very small court because that's what fits them. But when they go and compete, they have to compete in 10-foot rings and a 28-meter court. It's like watching it is watching it's like watching a football game. The games end up 6-2 because the kids can't score. They don't get enough shots. Okay, so we still do that. We also see a lot of this where we see adult behaviors that are perhaps not appropriate for the kids, but also for the we seem to see a lot of dislocated expectations, really, from the adults about what youth sport is there to do, and from the parents as well. Okay, we again, I think this is more prevalent in some sports than others, and in some cultures than others. So I know, for example, in Spain, we have a problem with this, with parents fighting in the stands, and it's very prevalent in football. Okay, but I know in other countries it might be prevalent in other sports, and so in some countries it doesn't happen. Okay, because of the culture of the country, but we know that it does happen in some places. All we're trying to say is, well, we've got these issues. We've got an idea of we need to do something to really make sport fit the child as opposed to the child fit the sport. Okay, and as coaches, we are on the ground. We are the first line of defense if we want to make sport a positive experience for children. And in that sense, I call ourselves environmental architects. And I encourage coaches to really see themselves, rather than see themselves as I coach basketball. I really talk about, no, I coach children. Okay, and my job is to create an environment that is suitable for children, and basketball is my vehicle. Okay, but I don't coach basketball. If you know what I mean there, because again, like I just said, the main priority as an environmental architect is that we make the sport fit the child, not the child fit the sport, and that goes from the equipment to the emotional atmosphere that we create, to the motivational climate, to every kind of interaction that happens in that environment. We have to tailor it to the needs of the kids. Okay, because otherwise we get this picture, really, and we don't want that picture. And obviously, as I said before, this is not an easy job to fix. I mean, I think individually we can do a lot, but we know that collectively it's a difficult problem to fix because there is culture that gets in the way, there are structures that get in the way. So it can feel sometimes like mission impossible. Like we feel like that, you know, and I sometimes feel like that at my own club, okay, where I feel sometimes like I'm the only one seeing the problem, okay? Or in my own sport, like I say, in basketball, I can see myself sometimes thinking, am I on my own here? But really, obviously, we believe that although it might feel like mission impossible, we think it's more like mission difficult, okay? But we can do some things to help the situation. And that's where we created iCoach Kids, really. And iCoach Kids was born 4 years ago as an Erasmus Plus project. I don't know how familiar you are with Erasmus, but basically, when we used to be in the European Union, you could apply for money from the European Commission to create projects that benefit the whole of the European Union, right? So we created a project with another 7 countries. So my university, Leeds Beckett University, partnered up with another 7 organizations from 7 different countries to create iCoach Kids. And all we were trying to do is to create a specialist workforce of youth sport coaches across all sports, really, to create. We don't do a sport-specific content. All our content is generic. Back to something that I said before that is really important, okay, is the idea that one of our catchphrases, if you want, is if I want to coach basketball to Jimmy, I need to know a little bit about basketball. I need to know quite a lot about coaching, and I need to know everything about Jimmy. Okay, in that order. So we specialize in coaching and Jimmy. We don't specialize in sport. That's because in terms of learning the sport, there's a million videos on YouTube. Every national governing body will have their own way of teaching the sport, but there's nothing much there around how to coach kids and how to really work with children, how to interact with children, really, how to care for children. And that's where we come in, really. And what we did is the first thing we did was, well, because we are based at a university, okay, what are we good at? We're good at reading, okay? So we did this massive literature review. We read every paper that we could get our hands on around coaching children to come up with what we called the iCoach Kids Pledge. Okay, we looked at all the data that we could find, and we distilled that into the iCoach Kids Pledge, which is the 10 golden rules for positive sport, for positive experiences in sport. And what I'm going to ask you to do, okay, is it took us about 18 months to get this work done, and I'm going to give you a whole 2 minutes, okay? And the negative side for me is that in 2 minutes, you're going to come up with something that is very close to what we came up with in 18 months, okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to, on the chat now, if you can just type anything that for you would be a golden rule for creating a positive experience for children in sport. Right, so fun, that's the first one. Thanks, Simon. Keep them coming. And by all means, if you're thinking of the same thing as someone else, just write it down. There's no such thing as plagiarizing in this workshop. No cues, smile, respect, enthusiasm. Oops, for some reason I said enthusiasm and my Google Assistant kicked in. They're always listening. Okay, yeah. Winning is great, but not win at all costs. Let them have ideas. Every child to feel safe. Implement their ideas. Lots of goals. Lots of activity. Great. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Anything else? Don't think only about what you do as a coach in the moment, but what you might do off the pitch. No question is worth. Yeah. Listen. Yeah. Great stuff. You got 20 seconds, and then we're gonna play bingo. Okay, I'm gonna reveal the answers and motivate. Fantastic. Very good. Think about anything that comes into making a positive experience for a child. Variety, perfect. Okay, very good. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the things that we found. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we found is that we need to be child-centered, which really summarizes in a way a lot of the things that you mentioned there in your answers. Okay, we want to make sure that we are focused on the needs of the child. Okay, that we have to really make an effort to understand the needs of the child. And how do we do that, really? Well, one thing that we always like to put across is we need to understand why children do sport. And they do sport for 3 reasons. There are many more, okay? But the 3 fundamental reasons that we found in the research were because they want to have fun, okay? And you mentioned this already. Because they want to learn something. And because they want to be with their friends or make new friends, okay? So when we are planning our sessions and our programs, because like I was hinting at before, this is not just about what we do when we are with the kids. It's also about the whole planning. Remember, we are environmental architects, okay? So design environments that are going to be encouraging fun, learning, and social interaction and making friends, okay? So that was rule number 1, being child-centered. Again, number 2, again, you've mentioned it in your answers, is this idea of being holistic, okay? And what does that mean? That we are not just coaching the player or the athlete, we are coaching the whole child, okay? And we need to consider the whole child in those 4 areas. Typically, we are in this area here. We look at the child on the physical side of things, okay? Because that's really apparent, that's in front of you, you can see that. And most of the planning that we do for coaching goes in here. But if you remember when I asked you before, what are the benefits of sport for children? A lot of your answers were not related to the physical side of things. They were all social, cognitive, emotional. It was more the psychosocial. And that's always the case. When I ask coaches, what do children get from sport? We always say all these psychosocial attributes, okay? But we never plan for them, or we very rarely plan for them. We plan for the technical, tactical, physical, but we don't tend to plan how are we going to provide them with social development, with cognitive development, with emotional development, okay? So that's something that we need to really consider a bit more. So one question for you really, and just give me maybe some ideas from your side around what do you normally do to support holistic development? What practices do you use? What tricks, what strategies do you use to go beyond sport really in your current coaching? Have you got any examples that you can share? Anyone? I'm trying to look at the chat as well. Juan, if you see anything on the chat that I haven't seen, by all means, bring it up, yeah?
Simon says, give them ownership.
Yeah. Okay, so we encourage them to, and that will really give them, well, for a strategy, will make them think about what they're doing, and it will develop them from a cognitive point of view. Okay, perfect. What other things do we do to support this idea of holistic development, more on the social, emotional, or cognitive?
On match day,
go on,
on match day, giving the responsibility to the players for substitutions, team talks, things like that.
Perfect. So we can give them some responsibility. That's a fantastic tool to use. And Juan, may I ask you, do they thrive when you ask them to do that? Do they take it well?
Different kids focus that do better. So what's quite common, I would suggest, is those that are strong technically and physically. No, I'll word it differently. Different kids have different skills in different areas, so you get to see different kids thriving, which is really nice. And other kids struggle who are normally really successful, and that's good too.
Absolutely, and that happens. Okay, but unless we try these things, we never get to see how they're going to react. And if we give them responsibility and Jenny takes it really well, but Mary doesn't, then I know that I have to work with Mary on that aspect a little bit and support Mary in developing that way. Perfect. Any other ideas? Create game-related practices. Perfect. And what does that, from a cognitive, social, or emotional game-related practices, what does that give them? What do they get from that, Lewis?
Yeah, I just think in terms of like the type of practice that you put on. So rather than, as you said, traditionally planning technical or physical practices, which might not be relevant for the age or appropriate for the age of the child, instead thinking about a practice which is more game related, whether it's involves rules or involves opposition, involves some sort of point system or whatever it may be, which will give the kids, like Simon's alluded to, some ownership around trying to devise maybe their own rules or working together in terms of some social stuff, in terms of team building, or things that involves a little bit of decision making for themselves within the practice, rather than just things that, you know, you're focusing around one area, whether that be the physical or the technical or whatever it may be. So
absolutely, Luis, and I love that idea of really getting them to explore decision making. Okay.
Yeah.
And when Juan was talking about the fact that you can ask them to do team talks before games, we do that. And interestingly, the main thing when we are, you know, we're letting go and giving the game to them, the outcome doesn't matter, because it's not about the outcome at that point, it's about the process. So if we're asking them to come up with a team talk, and the team talk they do is terrible in the sense that it doesn't really make any sense from a basketball point of view, it doesn't matter, and they don't need to know. But it's the process of them thinking through a strategy. And in my view, to be honest, doing team talks to 11-year-olds from the coach, by the time they go out and play, they've forgotten everything you've said. So it doesn't really make a difference whether you made the team talk or whether someone else does the team talk anyway. But yeah, all those ideas, okay? And I just want to show you a couple of videos really of all the things that we also do to encourage this kind of
sorry, Sergio, I think Joan, did you have something there? You had a hand up. Sorry, really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was funny just listening to Lewis talk. It's the stuff we've been talking about previously. You know, if you coach by using constraints, I think there's a bigger. I work in education, so there's a bigger benefit to that. You know, it helps kids go on and see the world through a problem solving point of view, rather than just benefiting them that hour they're at the sports session. You know, the rest of the time they're going, right, I've got a problem here. How am I going to solve it? Become a much more resilient and problem solving young people.
Absolutely. The more we can do in that respect, the better. And it pays off. And I'll show you a clip later on, if we have time, where it really paid off for us at a competitive level. Something that we had been doing with these kids for 5 years paid off at a very specific moment in a competitive level. Let me show you a couple of other things that we've tried really. Let me see if that works. Okay, so this is a clip. We periodically will have the children in our club clean up the facility. Okay, so to give them a sense of appreciation, really, and a sense of, guys, we are privileged. We've got a great facility. Let's look after it. So you'll see them, and the parents also contribute to this as well, which is important because sometimes the parents also take it for granted. So that's just one example, really, and then I wanted to show you a picture as well. And this is a current group. So this is in a way, you're going to see the two sides of my coaching here. So on the one hand, and I'm looking this way because I've got another screen here with the slides as well. But these smaller guys here are our community under 10 group. So there's no selection here. Anybody's accepted, regardless of experience or capability, whatever. Okay, but the guys behind are all about these guys. The other coach with me, the other 4 guys are members of our under 15 squad, my other team that I coach. Okay, every Friday when we do this session, 4 different players have to come in to help. Okay, and that's another way of creating an opportunity for them to to engage with the club, to value the club, to develop some leadership skills, to be a role model. So it's thinking about how can we really stimulate growth at a number of levels, really, that might go beyond just the physical and the sport itself. Okay, perfect. So we're going to move to, oh, hello. Is that little Juan?
Apologies, you can't hear. I've got my earbuds in. Say hiya.
Hi, mate. You okay?
You okay?
Brilliant.
Sorry, guys.
No, listen, child-centered. All right. So next thing is the idea of being inclusive, really, and the fact that if we want to create good experiences, they have to be inclusive. And inclusion is a really big term that can mean a lot of different things. Okay, from race to ability to sexual orientation to a number of different things. Okay, and we can, as I think, as institutions and clubs, we have to be mindful of how inclusive we are in that sense. But at the level of the coach, although we also have to be aware of that, I think the biggest element of inclusion that we need to manage, and if I go back quickly to that picture of my guys, if you look at these guys here, they come in all shapes and sizes and levels of experience, really. So for me, inclusion there is when we're doing this Friday night session with roughly about 20 to 25 kids, we have to work in a way that is inclusive. In other words, that all of them go home thinking, I enjoyed that and I learned something. And that's, for me, is the hardest thing to do in coaching. Okay, no questions asked. To get to that level where 20 kids can go home, all of them thinking that they've had a good session, that's difficult. And I put my hands up, I don't get there every night. Okay, some nights I go home thinking that wasn't very good. Okay, and sometimes I go, oh, that was a good one. Okay, but it is a difficult thing to do. It's not easy, and it requires a little bit of planning. Okay, and I'm going to share with you a model that we use to plan for these things. And you might be familiar with this model. Is the inclusion spectrum framework, which was developed by Pam Stevenson and Ken Black. I think it's a life-changing model. If you've never used it before, would really encourage you to have a look at it, because in other words, it just shows you that to be inclusive, you can have 4 types of activity. Okay, so open activity is when everybody's doing the same thing. Okay, and in that particular type of activity, even if they're all doing the same thing, they're all enjoying it and they're all learning. So for example, in my case, everybody has one basketball and everybody has to go from basket to basket taking shots, and they're all learning something and they're all enjoying it because they are on their own. They're not comparing themselves with anybody. They just, it's me and my basketball and that's it. Okay, but that doesn't always work. So for example, if we have them play 3-on-3, but we have the more experience with the very few experience, or in that group there are 10-year-olds and 7-year-olds, that's going to be tricky. Okay, so we might have parallel activity. Okay, where they're all doing the same activity. For example, they're all playing a 3-on-3, but we've split the groups by ability, by size, by experience, by whatever it is. Okay, to make sure that within those groups everybody is comfortable. So that's parallel activity. Now it might be that you want to do separate activity. So for example, a child might be quite new to a particular skill. So while everybody else is doing a shooting competition, we take this child to one side and we just go through the technique with this kid for 5 minutes. So they feel more comfortable when they go back into the competition. So that's separate activity. Okay. Or you can have modified activity, which is, okay, they might be doing the same activity. So it's like open activity, but you modify that activity by applying some conditions that make it harder for the better players or easier for the less able players. So you even the playing field a little bit by, for example, the conditions might be, again, back to basketball. We're playing 3-on-3. The best player can dribble, can only pass and move. He can shoot, but can't dribble, because when that person dribbles, they just blow past everybody and there's no game, basically, because they're the best kid. And we want to encourage them to pass the ball. Or for argument's sake, modified activity. We play 3 on 3, and we've got the 7-year-olds playing together with the 10-year-olds because that's what we wanted to do on that particular day. A 10-year-old cannot rip the ball off from a 7-year-old. You have to play defense with your hands inside your body. Okay, you can't really reach out to rip the ball. That's modified activity. How do we make some rules work to make the game an even playing field for everybody? I think, I mean, I know, I don't know Pam very well, but I know Ken Black really well. Ken should have made a lot of money out of this model because he's beautiful and it really helps you coach. And Ken is just the kind of guy that just gives everything away for free. But this model, in terms of planning how you're going to make your sessions more inclusive, or how in the middle of a session, if you realize that the session is not delivering for everybody, how you can modify it, having this in your head all the time is really helpful. Okay. So one to think, one I call them thinking tools really, and I use them myself really. Next point is the idea of making things fun and safe. Okay, we gotta make sure that our sessions are fun and that they are safe. If the space is not safe, children don't learn because they just go into self-preservation mode. And if things are not fun, they don't learn either. Okay, we only learn that we love. Okay, particularly consistently. All right, so we have to make it fun and really, yeah. And you mentioned it in your answers before. There are some very clear fun killers in youth sport and some fun makers. Okay, and I'm going to let you read those quickly. You mentioned the long lines, coaches talking for too long. Okay, mindless repetition, boring drills where the children are doing the same thing for 10 minutes. Okay, and on the other hand, you've got the opposite really, things that make things fun. Playground games. If you can adapt playground games to look like your sport, it's a winner always. And you can give games and drills funny names. Okay, you can do storytelling. You can use games, build storytelling. They might be doing a traditional drill in your sport, but if you tell a story around it, it changes their perspective. Or fun competitions. I'm going to show you a quick clip of something that we remember a couple of years ago when it was all the craze, the bottle flipping, and children were bottle flipping the whole time, and adults. Okay, so we did this. We created a competition where they had to score a shot, then they have to come in, flip their bottle, and if they landed it, they could get a bag of Haribos and put it in their bag. Okay, there are other brands available. Okay, this was in around the Halloween period. Okay, so we don't give them sweets every day, but this happened to be around the Halloween period. Okay, so let's just watch that for a second. So he landed it there, the last kid, and again, it's just a way of making things fun. This is another example. This is very recent. You'll see me wearing my mask, so it's actually from just a few weeks ago, and this is called the popcorn game. And we've got all the basketballs in one container, and the job of the coaches is to get them all out like a popcorn machine. Okay, and they have to bring them back in. And if we manage to empty the machine, the coaches win, and we never win anyway. But And what I like about these things is that as a coach, it's very easy to know if you're being successful because you can hear them being happy. You know, you can hear children being happy. And when you hear that kind of a noise in the gym, I know for some coaches it can be quite disruptive, but for me that's the sign that we've got it right in that particular day. Okay, perfect. So fun and safe. Obviously, did I go past yet? On top of that, this could be a whole webinar in its own right? But we have to make sure that everything we do is safe. both from the point of view of the organization, the structural, but also the behaviors of the adults and keeping watch. Nothing new there, but that's really important. Sometimes overlooked. Sometimes we take it for granted as well, and we don't pay enough attention to it. And then point 5 is about prioritizing the love for sport above learning sport. Okay, so we do want them to learn, but sometimes we take the fun out of learning and we focus too much on the learning. Okay, and we have to be really careful that we don't do that. And to avoid doing that, really, we have to be mindful that there are different types of practice, different types of activities. And I just wanted to show you that basically you can split them into 2 camps, right? Activities that are more like a drill, like a traditional drill, where the learning is very explicit and very deliberate, but they can be repetitive and boring. And on the other hand, you've got more game-based activities where the learning can be more implicit, sometimes slower because there's less control, but it's more playful learning. It's more variable, so you're developing more adaptable skills because it's not the same thing all the time. And no question about it, it's more fun. Now, and I'm really mindful here, okay, because I don't want to come across, I'm not, we call them jokingly, I'm not a games fundamentalist, okay? I do drills, okay? I think the key is to know when to do a drill and when to do a game and what type of game, because children need drills as well, okay? One of the things that drills do for children is that they build the level of basic skill really quickly. And for some children, that's really important because they don't have the confidence to play the game yet. If we throw them into a game straight away, we might actually be turning them off. We think that the game is fun, but for that particular child, the game is terrifying because they don't have the skill to play. So we need to get a balance between game-based coaching and drill-based or skill-based coaching, okay? And know when, and the key is to know, what do I want to give the children now? What's the experience that I want to give them? Are they learning a basic skill? Are they learning it from new? Because trust me, and I know some people say that you can learn any skill through games. I don't think it happens like that. I think some skills require more specialized attention. And it may be just for a couple of minutes or 3 minutes, okay? And then you let them loose again, okay? I would never do a drill for more than 2 or 3 minutes, okay? But sometimes there's nothing like a drill, and sometimes you need to use it. And still there are ways of making drills much more enjoyable than traditionally, okay? So even if we do drills, we can dress them up, we can sugarcoat them to make them more enjoyable, okay? But I'm going to show you just a couple of sequences really where you can see me doing a drill and then building that drill into something a bit more enjoyable that is more like a game, and then into a full game. So in this case, we are teaching children how to do a layup in basketball, which is the easiest way to score. So they need this because if they master this, they can score a lot more baskets and they'll be a lot happier, okay? So in this first video, they're just learning the basic footwork. Okay, so they're just learning the basic footwork of the layup, but we're very fortunate because we've got 8 baskets on one court. We've got 3 on the wall, 2 on the sides, and 2 portables. That's 7, I think, 7 baskets, okay? So we can split them into small, there's 2 or 3 children to a basket. So even though it is a drill, they're getting lots of repetitions. So we only have to do it for 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and they've got lots of repetitions, okay? And then we might build that up into something that is still working on the technique, but now it's a bit more like a game because they've got someone chasing them, okay?
Go! And 1. Go!
So in that case, we're now, it's still very much about the technique of the layup, but it's under a little bit of pressure. It's more game-like, so they don't mind. They could be doing that for 10 minutes. And in fact, we've done that sometimes. And the moment I moved to another game or another drill, they were, no, we want to carry on doing this because they enjoyed that kind of competition. And then you can just let them loose into a 3-on-3 situation and let them explore the layup in a real environment. to scaffold the learning. In educational terminology, it's a scaffold the learning, okay? And what do they need at what time? And you can do that for every basic skill, really. So it's really important that we really understand that we can work on a skill in a number of different ways, really, and make it work. 6, focus on foundational skills. So I think I mentioned it before, the idea that your sport is a vehicle, particularly when you're working with very young children, a vehicle to the development of fundamental movement skills. Okay, we can really aim to develop. I mean, we can, but don't. The idea is not to be too focused on the sport-specific skills, because actually they might not be able to develop those unless we give them the fundamental movement skills. Right? So, for example, it'd be pointless for me to get these kids to try and work on a very important basketball pass, the baseball pass, which is a long pass, because they haven't worked on the mechanics of throwing something one-handed. Okay, so we need to probably work more with tennis balls at the beginning and help them build their skills. Okay, and again, I'm just going to show you in terms of what the foundational skills are, that we talk about those movement skills, but also we talk about foundational play skills, right? So this is where I'm talking about the agility, balance, coordination, catching, throwing, kicking, skipping. But the play skills are skills that are common to most sports. And for example, in the team sports, there's a lot to be shared between basketball, football, rugby, hockey, netball. So for example, Claire is netball, right? Claire, I used to spend a lot of time watching netball coaches and stealing ideas for my basketball practices, because there was a lot. And I think so. Our facilities based in a girls' school. Okay, so the PE teachers would come and watch us coach basketball to get their ideas for the netball teams, and we would watch them in PE lessons, really, because there's so much to be learned from each other. So those ideas around the use of space, the use of time, the use of tracking, the use of anticipation, all those things can be worked on through generic games. They don't have to be football, basketball, tennis, or netball games. They can be worked because they are the same principles for all those games. Okay, and then we can use all of these to develop the sport-specific skills. Okay, but it's thinking as a coach that we need to work on all these things, not just the sport-specific skills. I'll give you an example. Okay, and I see this with football coaches all the time, where football coaches may complain that children are not able to play into space or move into space. And my complaint is always, actually, I don't think, because my children of the same age in basketball can do that. But what's the difference between football and basketball? In basketball, we carry the ball with our hands. In football, a lot of the times, the space is not respected because children can't control the ball properly, because it's really difficult to hold the ball with your foot and to make an accurate pass with your foot. But that doesn't mean that as a football coach, I can't work on spacing from an early age. I just have to put the ball in their hands. And even though it's a football session, we can work with the ball in our hands to work on spacing and the understanding of passing and moving and progressing. If they're not ready to do it with their feet, it doesn't mean that mentally they're not ready to understand space. It's the technique that is letting them down. It's not the cognitive capacity, okay? So it's being smart about, okay, what do I want to teach them here? And what's the best way to teach it them? Because if it's spacing, it doesn't have to be with their feet, okay? Or in my case, it doesn't have to include the dribble. So my equivalent is that I do a lot of things where I take the dribble away from them, because the dribble is distracting, and the dribble is a high-level skill that some of them struggle with. So if we remove the dribble, other opportunities open up, because the dribble is not there. And the dribble is taking the dribble away becomes an enabler of skill development as opposed to a constrainer. Okay, so it's understanding how those things impact on your coaching really, or on the kids that you coach. Okay, we've talked about that. I'm going to skip that video because we are running a little bit out of time. But I'm going to show you, for example, so that was a fun way of developing some fundamental movement skills. As they get older, we might do, this is our warm-up, okay? With this we're on the 14th of the time. where you can see the 6 stations, I think, doing different fundamental movement skills. And these guys are already 14, okay? But built into basketball activities. So we have these guys in them so the kids buy more into them. So these guys are working on their landing. These guys are doing a single leg landing. These guys are doing lateral movement. These guys were doing like ladder type of work. So it's just really different things that are not actually basketball related, but are really important to basketball. And we just disguise them as basketball so that they're easier to digest for them. Okay. 7, engage parents positively. This is a big one. Okay. And I don't think you mentioned it before. Okay. I don't think you mentioned the parents, but the parents are fundamental. We need to move away from this idea of parents being the enemy. Okay. We have to stop seeing the parents as Darth Vader and ourselves as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And apologies if you're not into Star Wars and you don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, we have to really see it's a team. Okay. And we need to engage the parents positively because they're actually a massive resource. They are the biggest resource we have. And in terms of how do we engage them, okay? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through the few slides that we've got left to really give you more time to discuss things at the end, okay? So apologies for not being too participatory at the moment, okay? But really, things that we've tried to do, we do parent education, okay? We do workshop with the parents and where we can get across our philosophy and also help them understand how they can help their kids, but also a chance to ask questions about what we do and how things are. We do days where we bring parents in to do parent and child sessions, okay, so they can enjoy the sport with their parents. There's a shooting competition there between parents and children. And you know what, we actually encourage them to join the coaching team. Okay, I know a lot of coaches are really scared of bringing parents into coaching teams, but for me, it's always worked a treat, really. We've been very lucky. And in this, a couple of years ago, with the team that we actually became national champions, the 3 of these guys are parents. Okay, and the other guy is a primary PE teacher at my children's primary school, which I roped into coaching because you can never have enough people helping you when you're coaching kids. Okay, so, and all these people are still coaching. And they just came in as a volunteer parent, and they're still now, a couple of them are actually head coaching now, some teams, okay? So really important to make the most of the parents, really, and to take time to work with them. 8, we talked about this earlier as well, and you mentioned it before, the idea of planning progressive programs, okay? And in that sense, I always talk about the bananas, okay? Just on the chat quickly, which banana you think is the best one? 6, yeah. Any other options? Let me look at the chat. 8 for a cake, yeah. Right. So most of the time we would probably choose 5, 6, or 7, depending on taste. Okay, and maybe some people like 8. Okay. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. The numbers are a bit moved, but yeah, these 2 really are the ones that people go to all the time. But there's 2 things really for me here. If you look at my Friday night session, okay, I've got all kinds of bananas in that session. Okay, okay, that's my Friday, kids. Okay, I've got bananas all over the place. Some of them are green, some of them are yellow, some of them are not even in the picture. Okay, so we have to understand that we have to create a program that allows for progression. Okay, not only in terms of inclusion, but actually that is able to take a child from where they are now to somewhere in a few months where you think they can get. Okay, we need to plan for that as well. It doesn't happen by chance, and also we have to be careful not to. And that's why this is a non-select session, okay? Because how can you really do any talent identification at this age when The reason why a banana is green or yellow might have nothing to do with talent, but more to do with this, with the chronological age or the biological age or the training age. How old are they actually? How mature are they? And how long have they been training? And if you look at that group there, I've got them for all kinds really. So these kids are really young. These kids are 7, okay? And they're both of them quite skillful, but they're really young, okay? Because some of the older kids here, for example, is a year 6. This kid is 11, okay? But training age really low because he's only, sorry, you can even see my arrow. This kid is a year 6, okay? But athletically very less skilled than the others because he's been into sport for a very short period. So we need to know who we're working with really and try and make progressions for everybody. Let's keep that. Just an idea there of how we structure our learning. So I did some work with Basketball England to really create progressive programs by saying, okay, roughly from what we know of the typical under 10, what are the things that we should be working on from a basketball perspective, okay? And what about the under 12s and that? And then obviously you have to use your professional judgment as a coach to realize that not every under 12 is going to be the same, okay? But the idea is that there is a progression that you can follow. So as children develop, you can really encourage that progression really because you know what comes next, okay? That's the idea, that you know what a child is now and you know what comes next. And that's the plan there. We've talked about this already when we talked about the prioritizing the love for sport above learning sport. There are different pedagogical methods really of coaching, different types of coaching practice. And we talked about the way to structure a drill with the drill based versus the game based. But there are also other ways to enhance learning. And we've been quite strong on that. So we talked about this already. But there's also, if you look at this, we've got drills and games here, okay? But we've done a lot of work lately on self-coaching and peer coaching, where we're constantly asking them to reflect on their performance, even the younger ones, okay, even with the very little ones, okay. But it pays off massively when you give them a chance to reflect on what they do, okay. And I'm just going to show you a quick clip of again this under 14s from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, nearly 4 years ago now. Wow, and how we stimulated that through conversations, through letting them use video with the iPad. So at this point, they've analyzed the last game, they've come up with some ideas, and they've developed their own practice. So they are running the practice themselves. Okay, and what I was saying to you, all these, you know, we use this with these guys because I was with the same group with for 5 years really, from being on the 10s to being on the 14 Prem really, and we ended up in the Final Four, which is the big competition really for basketball nationally in England, where the top teams in the country, the top 4 teams in the country, get to play each other to decide who the national winner is. And I wanted to show you this clip because in terms of enhancing learning, all the work that we put into these kids being able to self-coach and do peer learning came together in this particular game, which is the final, okay? And there's 40 seconds to go in the game. But every time I watch this clip, it makes the hair at the back of my neck stand really, because you'll see how with 47 seconds to go, after a timeout, they come together and they discuss what they're going to do. So they discuss what I've told them in the timeout and make their own decisions really. And you can see all 5 of them talking. we went on to win that game and win the national championship. But that to me is when you talk about sometimes as a coach, as I was saying before, you have bad days and sometimes good days. That was a great day because everything came together in the sense of it. We trained them for that. We trained them to be independent. We trained them to be focused, to talk to each other, to make their own decisions. We gave them guidance in the timeout, but then they have to come out and really agree between themselves. This is what we're doing, okay? And that was a really proud moment for us. And the last point, okay, is the idea of competition, using competition in a developmental way. And I'm just going to show you these two pictures really that old people like to be on a bench, but young people don't. Okay, so we have to make sure that we use competition in a really developmental way, and that we give everybody a chance to enjoy competition and to get the most for it really, and to understand that competition can be presented and promoted in a different way. It doesn't have to be always official competition. It could be festivals. It could be anything. Okay, so really to explore different ways of making competition work for everybody. And those are the 10 points. Okay, and what we always say is that as a coach, when you see, oh, I have to be child-centered and holistic and inclusive and fun and do foundational skills and be good with the parents and be progressive and enhance learning in different ways and use competition, it's a lot to take in. Okay, and it can be scary. And I don't know, I feel like this sometimes, that we're trying to do all these things. Okay, and I think for me that the best thing about the pledge is that you don't have to do everything. And there might be things that there might be a lot. There will be a lot of things here that you're already doing. Okay, so it's from all these 10 things, pick one that you think you can make a big improvement on. Okay, and for me, a few years ago, the big one was parents, engaging parents. Okay, and not being scared to engage parents. Okay, and that was the thing that I really focused on for a couple of years. Really, how do I get the parents more on board? Okay, and it's just picking your battles. Okay, but I understand that this can be quite daunting when you look at it all together, and that's where I Coach Kids really came in, really, because we understood that to do all of these, coaches need a big toolbox. Okay, and the second thing that we did with iCoach Kids is we developed that toolbox so coaches can actually access the knowledge they need or the ideas they need to be able to do all of this really. And we created a website and e-learning, which I think Juan will talk about later. Excuse me, but we have 3 learning courses available to you. And we've got a fantastic YouTube channel with over 200 pieces of video really that are really, really good. And the best news is that it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's completely free. It's not for profit. It's free for all. And I would really encourage you to go and have a look if you can. If you just go on YouTube and type iCoach Kids, the channel will come on and have a look. And if you go on our website, iCoachKids.eu, the same. From there, you can access the e-learning platform, which is this. Yeah, that would be the plan. So apologies that I had to rush through the second half of that there, but that's our iCoach Kids pledge, and I'm more than happy to take questions or comments or suggestions or anything that might come from your reflections really of what you just saw.
Yeah, so here just before we dive into trying to get the most out of you in the last few minutes, all these resources once again will be with you in the post-webinar email, including all the links to all those courses. And Sergio, just very quickly, there's a number of governing bodies that have taken you guys on board, and they're part of the coach's profile, passport. There's lots of names, different names.
Yeah.
I mean, just to name one, World Rugby. I know you're in there. You've been there for some time now.
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate, really. The idea really caught on with governing bodies, really, and we have, for example, a partnership with World Rugby. We have a partnership with UEFA. UEFA have gone all in, and UEFA have created as I say, a e-learning is generic. It's not for football. Okay, so they've taken our e-learning and customized it for football. Okay, we are currently working with Nike, so we've signed a partnership with Nike. Hence the polo, or as my children call it, the merchandise. Okay,
the stash.
Yeah, the stash. Yeah, and we are developing our website really going to be amazing. Really, the new website is going to be incredible. We've just filmed a short new course as well to encourage more people to be curious about how we work with children. So please, by all means, join the family. At the last, we had a conference in December that Juan attended, and we had 4,000 people registered over 2 days from 88 countries. So
he was so big that it made Sergio freeze over there. Have we lost him? He's there, Sergio. He's back. He's back.
Oh,
the conference was so big that he had to freeze for a second to make the momentum carry on.
Always happens at the worst time. I had some beautiful words there for the last 20 seconds. All I was saying is, look, join the family. iCoachKids is just a family of people with an interest in coaching children. The new website will actually allow you to interact with people. So we're going to create a website with it's got a chat facility. It's going to be like Facebook for coaches, but all in one house, really. And you will also be able to create your own interest groups. So if all you care is about coaching football in the Isle of Man for 8-year-olds, you could create an interest group just for those people and invite them into your interest group. And you manage the group and you talk through that group and you post things on the group. Yeah, we're very keen to have you join the family.
Brilliant, brilliant. Daniel, over to you. Come on.
Me?
I thought you had a question. You had a mic open. No?
Oh, no, I just thought it was going to be a general discussion. But yeah.
All right, here we go. Anyone, something for Sergio? We've got a few minutes.
It could be a question, it could be a reflection. Is how difficult is this for you, or how well are you doing on this already? Is there anything that we've missed?
I'll go first. It's not really a question. It's just that I feel quite in a fortunate position because as a rugby coach, and only recently becoming a rugby coach, is that what we've got laid out with the England RFU is the age grade rugby. So it's very much tailored towards children and their abilities, and they love their acronyms, and we have things like APES, active, purposeful, enjoyable, safe, to make sure that everything you do is all of those things. We have the skill zone and the game zone, and also coaching at a rugby club with bringing lots of parents on board to help out. And I mean, that's how I got into it. I got roped in because my son was starting to play rugby, and it's very much what you've shown and said tonight is applicable throughout. Yeah.
And thanks, Dan. And I think rugby is one of the most advanced sports, really, in that sense, because I remember my eldest is now 14, but when he was 7, he came home one day saying, I want to play rugby. So I actually spent 2 years taking him to rugby, and in the end I ended up like you, coaching on the sidelines as well. And at that point the RFU was doing a lot of work to adapt the formats of the game.
The governing body came in and it froze again.
One of the things that to make the... Oh, did you lose me there?
Yeah, we lost you for about 5.
I think my children must be on the PlayStation.
I think the big battle of the evening is you name dropped the governing body there and it froze for some reason. I think we're being watched.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Lewis, you had something, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just wanting to get more of your opinion, or a bit of a question, Sergio, in your experience, in terms of, do you feel, after all the things that you've talked through really well tonight, that we maybe are perhaps putting children into organised activity too early, or at too young an age, because we're constantly battling sort of from a football perspective here on the Isle of Man, the sort of culture of football, and parents seeing football maybe not win at all costs, but you know, the winning side of things, and the kids getting left on the sideline, and everything that comes with competitive football, as opposed to what you've really well discussed tonight, all the things that you were doing within training sessions and within basketball, which brings out a lot of fantastic lifelong learning for kids. Are we sort of in danger of putting kids off, that they've started too early in competitive sport, that they might drop out at 16? What's your sort of, or 16, 17, 18, and the lifelong journey in football or whatever sport it may be might not be there because we started them too young? I just want to know what your opinion might be on that.
Yeah, Louis, it's a great question, really. I think I don't think the problem is starting too early. Okay, I think the problem is how do we structure the activities, and how do we, what kind of objectives we have on those, and what kind of expectations we place on the children, and that's where the adults take over, really, and we impose adult expectations, really, about winning or wanting to. My eldest went from rugby to then football, and now he's in basketball. Okay, and in football he was very clear. So football, he played for the local team here in Salford. We live in Salford in Manchester, and he wasn't like the Salford Select or anything like that. But even it was a lower club. They were selecting children. So my children did a trial to get into the Salford on the nines or whatever. And it's not even the best team in Salford. It's a local club there, and all the games were about winning. Okay, and I think you have to really find, because honestly, the kids, it's not that the kids don't like winning, but it's not the biggest thing for them. Because I know there's always the argument, no, but children love winning. Yeah, of course, but it's not the biggest thing for them. For them, the biggest thing is to have a good time, to be with their friends, to learn something. In all this research around winning always comes down really low. Like talking about 50 things children enjoy in sport, and winning doesn't come out until the 40s. Okay.
Yeah, it's the parents and the coaches that like it, unfortunately, maybe.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to move downstairs and take over the kitchen, because I think the connection is going to be better down there. So apologies if I fall down.
We don't want anyone in your family to get in trouble. Sergio. A couple of resources while Sergio is setting up over there for you, Luis, and everyone else, that you've already got in your resources. John O'Sullivan's TED Talk, I think is phenomenal. I think it's about 14 minutes. You've already got it. I've already sent it to you. And also I'll send you a resource from Amanda Vesic around her fan maps, Amanda Vesic and Heather Mannix. If you want to have a look at them, I think, I'm sure, Sergio, you guys have gone through all the literature as well.
Absolutely, and if you look at in terms of football, really, and changing the culture of football, best talk you can look at the Chris van der Hagen from Belgian Football Association on our YouTube channel, because the Belgian Football Association is one of the founding members of iCoach Kids. Chris has 2 or 3 talks on our YouTube channel around how they change the culture in Belgium. Okay, and for example, in Belgium now, on the 6s and on the 7s, they play 2-on-2. Okay, and they don't play in clubs. They bring 4 or 5 clubs come together to a festival, and they mix the kids up, and they spend 2 hours playing 2-on-2, and the kids absolutely love it, because every child goes home and they've scored 10 goals each. So there are ways of doing it, and it is, and it took Chris 20 years to change the culture in Belgium. So it's not a quick process. But there are ways of doing it, really, and you know, Luis, I feel your pain, because I'm trying to change the culture of basketball in my local area. I think that because the mini basketball is not governed by the federation, mini basketball is governed by the league organizers. So at my club, I think we do a great job with mini basketball, but then those kids go and take part in these local leagues where they're playing 5-on-5 on a massive court with 10-foot rings, and it makes no sense whatsoever. It's like a different sport.
I'll send you that resource, Luis, because you're not going to be able to spell Chris's last name in about 1,000. I will send it to you. Sergio, thank you so much for tonight. We'll have to wrap it up there. It's been a phenomenal hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to hand over to Reverend Trevor Lee Christian, who's going to give us our final blessings. And then, as usual, we'll leave you to close it up, Sergio, with the final words. And we can all give him a massive thank you, opening our mics at the end. That'll be great. So, Trev, over to you.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Sergio. That was fantastic. Really enjoyable 20 minutes. And great to see everyone stay tuned in for the whole lot. So everyone must be hanging on every word and every point in the pledge. So thank you for your time. It was greatly appreciated. Really looking forward to getting the recordings through from you, Juan, as well, and being able to look back through that and pick up on some of the points. I've got loads of notes in my book. It was really, really riveting stuff, and I'm sure everyone's had a fantastic time there. So thank you so much. Moving on, so we're going to be looking at our next talk with Amy Price, which is going to be on Thursday, the 25th of February. That's a daytime one, so I think a lot of you guys, hopefully Lewis and Simon and Chris, might be able to fix that in with your working day, or if anyone's going to take a late lunch, get along to Amy, who's going to go through gamification. So
well, Sonic and Mario can teach us. So there you go.
So is that linking our PlayStations and our Nintendos up with our sport? I'm really looking forward to that one. So that's again on Thursday, 25th of February. And just quickly rattling through, we've got March, Stuart Armstrong ditching those drills, Sarah Kelleher in March on Paddy's Day on the 17th, looking at flourishing, and we've got Dr. Suzanne Brown looking at mental health on the 25th of March. And then finishing up on the 5th of April, we've got Dr. Richard Cheetham learning about learning. So we've got lots of fantastic speakers to come. Sergio has set the bar high. So hopefully we're going to have some fantastic presentations from everyone else that's going to be up there on the same caliber as our Sergio. So thank you very much indeed for tuning in, folks. And we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you all at our next one. But also, really important, tell your coaching friends, tell your people in your sports, tell your people in your clubs to come along, get signed up with our coaching network as well, our Ironman Sport Coach Network Facebook group, because we put a lot of information out there, and also on our Ironman Sport page as well. So do get along, and hopefully we can share the message out there across the Isle of Man. So thank you.
Brilliant. I've asked you all to unmute so you can say your thank yous to Sergio. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Sergio. Thank you. Cheers, Juan. Cheers, Trevor.
Bye.